Imagine walking into a den of wild wolves, like as a grown adult. Your instincts are probably just, screaming at you.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. You're bracing for an attack, your heart is racing, and honestly, you'd probably be torn to shreds.
Yeah, that would not end well.
No, definitely not. But according to this really fascinating ancient text we're diving into today, if a human baby were placed in that exact same den, it might actually be welcomed, like raised by the pack.
Which sounds completely wild to us.
It really does. And why? Well, it's because the baby possesses this thing that we completely lose as we age. It's like the ultimate defense mechanism.
It's such a compelling image, isn't it? And it really strikes at the absolute core of our discussion today. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I, we see it all the time. People spend an incredible amount of time, energy, and frankly, money trying to reverse the
Oh,
clone.
for sure. The cold plunges, the crazy diets.
Exactly. The biohacking, those luxury skin creams that cost a fortune. We are entirely obsessed with preserving the physical vessel.
Right, the outside.
Yeah. But in doing so, we just completely overlook the psychological and the spiritual hardening that happens as we rack up the years.
And that actually brings us perfectly to the source material for today's deep dive. So we're looking at a piece by Shuafeng, and it's titled The First Step to Returning to Youth. And just to be clear, our mission here is to explore this profound idea that the ultimate fountain of youth has absolutely nothing to do with our physical bodies.
None at all.
Right. It's about reverting to a childlike state of mind. So, okay, let's unpack this, because I want to make sure you, the listener, know that this isn't some, convenient excuse to avoid paying your taxes or acting immaturely.
Right, it's not a free pass.
Exactly. It's framed in the text as a massive spiritual and psychological upgrade.
And what stands out immediately in the text, at least to me, is just the sheer weight of the philosophical consensus here. The author weaves together wisdom from totally distinct, historically separated traditions.
Yeah, the lineup is kind of staggering.
It really is. You have Jesus, Buddha, Laozi, Wudang masters, and they all converge on this incredibly specific, almost counterintuitive point. To reach the highest level of enlightenment or enter the kingdom of heaven, you cannot push forward. You can't become the ultimate, perfectly polished adult.
You actually have to shift into reverse.
Yes, you must become a child again.
But, that concept of going backward, it sounds a bit confusing on the surface. So we really need to be clear about what returning to youth actually means here, because the author is super explicit that we aren't talking about physical regression.
Right. No one is Benjamin Buttoning their way back to preschool.
Right, exactly. We're not Benjamin Button. So what is it then?
Well, the text specifies that it's our spiritual essence that must return to the heart and mind of a child. For instance, it references Buddha Shakyamuni, who advises that if you still carry the appearance of longevity, you cannot become a bodhisattva.
Okay, let me stop you there for a second. Just for those listening who might not be entirely familiar with Buddhist terminology, bodhisattva is essentially an enlightened being, right? Like someone who is capable of reaching nirvana, but delays doing so out of compassion to save suffering beings.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But that specific phrase, the appearance of longevity, what exactly does that mean in this context? Because it sounds like looking old, but I know it's not that.
It's not about wrinkles, no. Think of the appearance of longevity as the rigid societal armor we accumulate over time. It's this unwritten rule book we all just carry around.
Oh.
It's that voice in your head that says, because I am 40 or 50 years old, I am no longer allowed to play. I can't cry when I'm overwhelmed. I have to always project complete control.
Wow. Yeah, I think we all know that voice. And the text pulls from other sources too, right? Like Jesus is quoted warning that unless you turn and become like little children, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven.
Right. And then you have Laozi, the ancient Chinese philosopher. He guides us to revert to infancy, pointing out that what is strong will grow old.
Which is so interesting. What is strong will grow old.
Yeah, Laozi is getting to the literal mechanics of aging there. Rigidity, what is strong or unbending, like a dried branch, is precisely what snaps under pressure.
Right. Whereas a green young sapling just bends in the wind.
Exactly. And the text also brings in Wudang master Zhang Sanfeng, who offers this brilliant perspective. He says, going with the flow makes one ordinary. Going against the flow makes one immortal. This is the reversal within the Tao.
Man, I just love the poetry of that quote. But okay, let me push back a bit on how this actually plays out in the real world.
Sure, go for it.
Because if I take reverting to infancy, literally, right, and
Mhm.
I go into work tomorrow and just throw a full-blown toddler tantrum in the middle of a high-stakes strategy meeting, I mean, I'm not becoming an enlightened immortal. I'm just getting fired.
Yeah, security would probably escort you out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how is this not just a really convenient excuse for grown adults to act horribly and, shirk their responsibilities?
Well, it's a vital distinction to make. Shedding that appearance of longevity isn't about abandoning adult capability
Yeah.
or orchestrating external chaos. It's really about dismantling the artificial facade.
Okay, the facade.
Right. So when the text says a 40-year-old shouldn't be bound by the rule against crying, it's not instructing you to wail in the boardroom. It's warning you not to suppress your fundamental human emotions. Just because modern culture. I mean, think of the kind of performative adulthood we see on LinkedIn all day long.
Oh, LinkedIn is the worst for that. So performative.
It really is. It tells you a professional must be an unfeeling monolith. But this reversal is about preserving your internal authenticity.
So we're talking about an internal state of being rather than just acting out externally. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And that internal state leads us right back to that baby in the wolf den we talked about. Because the text points to the first major characteristic of this childlike mind, which is purity. But it frames purity in a way I hadn't really considered before.
How so?
Well, not as innocence or fragility, but as a powerfully effective shield.
Yes. Purity is presented here as the ultimate defense mechanism. And the text uses several really vivid scenarios to illustrate how this operates in the physical world. One of them is the Harar Lion Park.
Oh, right, the lion cubs.
Yeah, the author describes observing a group of people, adults and kids, happily petting these lion cubs. The cubs were entirely playful, no one was afraid, and the text asks why. It concludes it's because the cubs themselves are pure.
And then it pushes that idea to the extreme with the wolf children concept we opened the show with.
Right back to the wolves.
The author actually poses a direct question to the reader. Would you, an adult, dare to go into a wolf's den to be raised by them? And the answer is obviously no, because an adult would be seen as a threat and immediately attacked. But there are these mythological and even historical accounts of babies being taken in.
Yeah, it's a known phenomenon.
Right. And the text argues this happens because the baby is pure, whereas the adult has just completely lost that purity.
It even pulls a story from the Bible to back this up.
Yeah.
The story of the 3 men who are thrown into a blazing furnace but are completely unharmed. The text attributes their survival directly to their purity.
Right.
And Laozi teaches that those who excel at preserving life aren't harmed by rhinos or tigers or even weapons in battle, because metaphorically there is no place for the rhino's horn, the tiger's claws, or the blade to actually land.
Now, I have to say, those metaphors can sound almost magical on the surface, like fantasy. But there's a part of this reading that completely threw me at first, and I think it actually explains the real mechanism behind all this.
That's the invisibility part.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. It asks, simply, can you become invisible? And the answer it gives is no. But the reasoning is that your desires cloud your thoughts. But then it points out that children can't become invisible either, but for a totally different reason.
Right, they just don't want to.
Exactly. Simply because they lack the specific desire to do so. It's like a Jedi mind trick. You can only achieve a mystical state if you completely drop the craving for it.
What's fascinating here is that it's a profound paradox. The very act of craving a mystical state or craving control over your environment is the very thing that tethers you to the mundane and makes you a target.
So true.
If we dig into the underlying psychology of what the text is communicating, it's about the mechanics of intention. Because what is purity in this specific context? It isn't about moral perfection. Purity means an absolute, total lack of hidden agendas.
Okay, so when an adult walks into a wolf den, they don't just walk in physically, they carry this heavy psychological energy, right? Like fear, calculation, dominance, self-preservation.
And animals, and arguably the universe at large, react to that intent. That hidden agenda, that appearance of longevity we talked about, it acts like a magnet for danger. Because the adult is projecting a threat, the claws and the blades find purchase on their ego and their hidden intentions.
We basically create the surface area for the danger to strike.
Exactly. We offer a target.
But a baby has no hidden agenda. It isn't trying to manipulate the wolves or, calculate an escape route. It just exists completely in the present moment.
Therefore, there's nothing for the defensive instincts of the animal to latch onto. Purity, in this philosophical framework is a state of such complete psychological transparency that threats essentially pass right through you
Yeah.
because you offer no resistance and project no hostility.
Man. So if purity, this total transparency and lack of a hidden agenda is what shields us, what happens when we operate with an agenda? Like, what does the text say is the actual enemy of this childlike state?
Well, the text argues that the direct opposite of purity is everyday, normalized adult hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy.
Yeah. It's the chasm between what we experience internally and what we choose to project externally.
And the author is fairly ruthless about calling this out, right? He contrasts the genuine, immediate reactions of children with the fabricated, heavily calculated reactions of adults.
The examples he uses are great.
Yeah. Take the example of the apple. A child sees someone eating a crisp, delicious apple, and their reaction is instantaneous. I want an apple. There is zero gap between the desire and the expression.
Now, compare that to the adult in the same situation. The adult might be absolutely craving that apple, internally just salivating, but they will sit there, posture themselves, and pretend to be completely indifferent.
Or even act like they're above it.
Right. They might feign a look of superiority, as if wanting an apple is somehow beneath them.
It's exhausting just thinking about it. And it gets even deeper when the text brings up tears. When a child is sad, they cry. When they're hungry, they shout. It's pure biological and emotional honesty. But adults just suppress those completely natural responses.
We invent all these elaborate frameworks.
Yeah, telling ourselves real men don't shed tears, or we prize this stoicism and self-control above genuine expression.
We essentially pathologize our own humanity. We take natural emotional release valves and just plug them up, all to maintain this artificial image of invulnerability.
There's a third example the author uses that really hammers home the toxic nature of this hypocrisy, and it's about physical attraction.
Oh, the beautiful woman example.
Yes. So imagine two people see a beautiful woman. One person is genuine and instinctively just says out loud, wow, she's beautiful. But the second person sees her, secretly feels this intense desire, maybe even wishes he could take her as a partner, yet what does he do outwardly?
He mocks the first person.
Exactly. He sarcastically mocks the first guy. He calls him superficial or says he lacks taste.
It's the classic psychological projection of internal guilt. The second person is experiencing desire but feels compelled by societal morals to hide it. So he weaponizes his own hidden agenda against someone who is just being honest.
It's so twisted when you break it down like that.
It is. And the text draws a very hard line using these examples. It basically says, if what you feel internally does not align perfectly with what you say and do externally, you are simply not being genuine.
Think about the cognitive toll that takes on you, the listener, every single day. We consider this masking to be politeness or professionalism. It's as if we wake up every morning and strap on this heavy, invisible emotional corset.
An emotional corset, that's a great way to put it.
We just pull the laces as tight as we can to ensure our messy internal feelings never leak out into our spoken words or actions. And we think we're being mature adults by doing this, but the text is arguing we are just living profoundly false lives.
The emotional corset is a perfect analogy. Because think about what a physical corset actually does. It restricts your breathing, it compresses your organs, it forces you into an unnatural shape just for the sake of outward appearance.
Right, hurts.
Exactly. And society absolutely demands this disconnect. We are constantly trained to read the room, mask our true feelings, and project a curated image. But maintaining that gap between reality and projection requires a massive, continuous expenditure of energy.
It just drains your spirit.
Completely. That emotional corset restricts your spiritual breathing. The text argues that this daily hypocrisy, this relentless effort to manage our image, is precisely what ages our minds. It literally exhausts our spiritual essence.
So if strapping on this emotional corset is what makes us rigid and exhausted, how do we take it off? The source suggests the antidote is spontaneity and naturalness. That's what keeps our minds alive.
And the text illustrates this beautifully by contrasting how different generations play in the snow. It describes two innocent children, Mao Mao and Jia Jia.
Right, the kids in the snow.
Yes, they're playing joyfully, acting completely naturally, even innocently touching each other's rosy, cold cheeks without a second thought.
And then the author compares them to the adult neighbors, old Zhang and Auntie.
The author asks a rhetorical question here. Would old Zhang ever play joyfully in the snow with Auntie? Would he dare touch her cheeks in a moment of innocent play?
Never.
Of course not, because old Zhang and Auntie are hopelessly trapped by human moral values and societal expectations.
Hmm.
They have been so conditioned by the rules of what is appropriate for people their age that they have completely lost the ability to follow their own nature.
They are just incapable of acting freely. The text even points to something as fundamental as sleep to show how deep this conditioning goes.
Oh, this one is so relatable.
Right. If a child is tired, even if the most distinguished, important guests are visiting the house, the child will just close their eyes and fall asleep on the couch. It's the most natural biological response in the world.
They don't care who's in the room.
Exactly. But an adult will be sitting there, eyelids physically drooping, desperately exhausted, but will unnaturally force their eyes open and insist, "I'm not tired. I'm fine."
They fight their own biological reality just to maintain an appearance of stamina and politeness. It's a small but telling betrayal of the self.
Now, to explain what this constant betrayal does to us over time, Feng uses this incredibly powerful analogy of a water pond. He says childhood is like a fresh pond. It has water constantly flowing in from a mountain spring and water constantly draining out the other side.
Right, there's circulation.
Yeah, and because of that continuous flow, the water never dries up and it stays perfectly fresh and clear.
But as we enter middle and old age, the text argues, our minds become like a stagnant pond.
A pond with no fresh water coming in and no drainage going out. And what happens to standing water? It grows foul, it stagnates with algae, or eventually when a heavy storm comes, it floods because there's no release valve.
This is such a profound metaphor for cognitive and spiritual flexibility. The fresh water flowing in represents new ideas, unfiltered experiences, and the willingness to see the world without preconceived notions.
And the drainage.
The drainage is equally important. It represents the ability to let go, letting go of grudges, old paradigms, and outdated beliefs. When you maintain a pure, spontaneous nature, you stay connected to that fresh source of life.
Think about how you consume information in your daily life. Let's say you listen to this very deep dive and you encounter a totally new philosophy. If you just hoard these facts in your brain, let them sit there, and never allow them to actually challenge your perspective or change how you interact with your family or colleagues, you are becoming that stagnant pond.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, holding on to old views and aggressively resisting new ones is literally blocking the source of the river. The text warns that if you dam up that source with your adult ego, your life will gradually wither. And returning to a youthful state of mind becomes almost impossible.
You're just stuck.
Yeah. To stay fresh, we have to maintain that natural flow. We must be willing to continuously flush out the old and welcome the new, without our ego constantly filtering everything through the lens of what is safe or appropriate.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here today. We've looked at shedding the appearance of longevity, understanding purity as a state of having no hidden agendas.
The exhausting weight of the emotional corset.
Yes, the hypocrisy corset. And the necessity of keeping our minds flowing like a fresh pond. And this all builds to the ultimate conclusion of the text.
The text offers a very clear, uncompromising diagnostic test for where we actually stand. It states that people who speak freely and openly, saying what they think, just as they think it, are people who possess a childlike heart.
And it describes them in a very specific way.
It does. The author describes them as lovable and asserts that they are the ones destined to enter the heavenly realm.
The text refers to this realm as the 1,000-year world. Just for some quick context here, in this spiritual framework, the 1,000-year world is described as an elevated heavenly dimension where the celestial beings almost all resemble children.
They're described as pure, beautiful, playful.
A little mischievous even, and entirely simple in their interactions.
Conversely, though, the text paints a stark, unflattering picture of the opposite type of person, those who are deeply scheming. The hyper-vigilant individuals who calculate every single word before it leaves their mouth to ensure it lands perfectly without a trace of error or, heaven forbid, vulnerability.
The author literally calls those people intimidating. It says it's impossible to know what they are truly thinking. I mean, they might be exceptionally clever, they might be highly successful executives in our modern adult world, but spiritually,
They're bankrupt.
yeah, the text says they are as far from the kingdom of heaven as you can possibly get.
Because they have traded their authenticity for control.
And this is really the core takeaway for you as you listen today. Dropping the appearance of longevity isn't about acting immature or abandoning the life you've built. It is fundamentally about reclaiming your authenticity.
It's an invitation.
Exactly. It's an invitation to drop the exhausting 24/7 act of pretending to be a serious adult. You simply don't have to carry that heavy emotional corset all the time.
It's a call to align your internal reality with your external expression, to allow the pond to flow again.
The author, Shui Feng, leaves the reader with one final brilliant question to test this entire philosophy, and it goes like this. If you were the manager of the heavenly kingdom, what kind of people would you admit into its society?
It's a great question because it forces you to reevaluate the traits you truly value versus the traits society has trained you to value.
I want to build on that for you, the listener, as we wrap up. Take a moment today and apply that exact same criteria to your real life right now. Let's say you are the manager of your own inner circle. You are the sole gatekeeper to your own time and energy.
Okay, I like where this is going.
And you set a new rule starting today. You will only admit people who are entirely authentic, pure, and completely aligned in their thoughts and their words. People who speak freely and don't calculate every move. How many of your current friends, your colleagues, or your mentors would actually make the cut?
That is a deeply challenging filter to apply to your relationships.
It really is. And more importantly, as you continue your search for that ultimate fountain of youth we talked about at the very beginning, if you applied that same strict criteria of purity and uncalculated authenticity to yourself, would you grant yourself admission?
Something to really think about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll leave you to ponder that, and we'll catch you next time.